I'm Nan Bush, and I'm a lifesaver. My husband Terry and I have 4 children. Our oldest is Lindsay, and then we have Allison, 3 years after that, and 3 years later we had Nicholas, and 4.5 years later we had Austin. I have an aunt, and she always says to me, Nan, you live such a charmed life. I'm very fortunate. I felt so grateful and, and of course blessed. I felt like, wow, I don't know why this is happening, but I'm so grateful. And then our tragedy hit. And I want you to know our world blew apart. We got the call from the coroner, Dane County coroner, at 5 in the morning on June 16th, 2011. Your daughter is dead. Allison had been 4 years before misdiagnosed. We thought she had poison ivy. Long story short, it ended up having been misdiagnosed and treated over and over and over because the rash didn't go away with steroids, and it was shingles. And if anybody knows anything about that, throwing steroids on shingles is like throwing gasoline on a fire, and she was left with permanent, severe nerve damage. She had medical, experimental surgical procedures to assist with it. She was on many different drugs to try to help, and she died in her sleep. And all they can figure is that her little liver just gave out. In her case, she had completed a document, and how that advanced directive that we would have never imagined doing with her saved our lives, really, when it came time to needing that information. And knowing in our hearts that what we were doing, the decisions we were making, was what she would want. We were all on the same page because we were on Allison's page. Very soon after, we buried Allison. We were all still together. And I made a point of having a family meeting, and I handed out these 5 wishes to each of them. And I said, Allison, created one, and that's what helped us get through this. Dad and I have created our own, and we would ask each of you to create one for yourselves and let us keep a copy. But my son Austin, who is the youngest, reacted very strangely, I thought, but then again, he was grieving. He was very angry that his beloved sister was no longer here and didn't know who to blame. And so I remember vividly, he took that document and crushed it in his hand. He stood up and he threw it on the ground, and he looked at us and he said, all you need to know is I never want to be a vegetable. And he stormed out of the room. And he never did fill out that document. I never asked him to again. But the thing that was so important to this story is that we all heard what he said. He made himself very clear. And fast forward from that day, 5 years. And we get a phone call on Labor Day, 5 p.m., 2016, from a hospital in St. Paul, Minnesota, saying that our son Austin had just been brought in by ambulance and was unconscious and on life support. And they had no idea why. And we needed to come. We spent the next 9 days running every test known to man, more than once, trying to figure this all out. And we had to decide what to do next. Basically, will we turn off life support? Because the prognosis was totally dark. As they presented the case to us, we all just looked at each other and we said, well, if this is true, we know what Austin would want. And there was no doubt, no question, no discussion. He died on September 17th, 2016. But I guess my message through that story is that, again, we knew what he wanted. No, he didn't fill out a document, but yes, we definitely had that critical conversation with him, and there was no doubt. And we were all very confident that what we were doing was what he wanted, even though it was the most difficult thing we've done ever. Anyone can be a lifesaver when it comes to this topic. Don't disregard young people. This conversation is critical for anyone at any age.